Good day, class. Our topic for today is the global device, the North and the South, also known as the global North and the global South. For our collecting, after this topic, the students are expected to define the terms of a global South and the global North, differentiate the global South from the global North, and analyze how a new concept of a global relationship emerged from the experiences of Latin American countries. But before we start the discussions about our topic, I want you to watch these short documentations related to this topic.
There are thousands of refugees entering Bangladesh every day. They cross the border of Myanmar, where the state military has launched a violent offensive against an ethnic minority group, the Rohingya. The UN reported that since August 2017, about 400,000 Rohingya men, women, and children have fled their homes in Myanmar's Rakhine state. Reports claim that the military has been killing and raping the Rohingya and has set their villages on fire. Satellite imagery showing burned villages confirms those reports.
Because Myanmar has refused access to human rights investigators, the current situation cannot yet be fully assessed, but the situation remains or seems a textbook example of ethnic cleansing.
The term ethnic cleansing has been reserved for some of the worst atrocities in history. The UN defines it as a purposeful policy designed by one ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian population of another ethnic or religious group from certain geographic areas. What makes Myanmar a textbook example is that the military has been launching attacks on the Rohingya, a Muslim minority in a majority Buddhist country. Violent tactics have forced tens of thousands of Rohingya to flee their homes. While many fled to Malaysia and Thailand, most ended up in Bangladesh. The recent wave of violence is the latest in a pattern of discrimination that started over 50 years ago. In 1962, Myanmar, then called Burma, was taken over by the military in a coup. They got rid of the country's constitution and created a military junta. Like many dictatorships, they promoted fierce nationalism based on the country's Buddhist identity. And when they needed a common enemy to help unite the population, the Rohingya were singled out as a threat. Tensions between the Burmese Buddhist population and the Rohingya go back to the Second World War, when each group supported opposing sides. The Rohingya sided with the British colonialists, who ruled the country, and the Buddhists mostly sided with the Japanese invaders, hoping they'd help end the British rule after the war. But even in modern Myanmar, the Rohingya minority continue to be an easy target. Although their lineage can be traced back to 15th century Burma, the government has been forcing them out, claiming they're illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. It started in 1978 after a massive crackdown called Operation Dragon King forced about 200,000 Rohingya to flee to Bangladesh. The military reportedly used violence and rape to drive them out. About 170,000 Rohingya reportedly returned to Burma. Then in 1982, the government passed the Citizenship Act, recognizing 135 ethnic groups. The Rohingya, with a population of about 1 million, were not on the list and became a stateless people. In 1991, Myanmar's military launched another campaign, literally called Operation Clean and Beautiful Nation. This time, about 250,000 Rohingya fled to Bangladesh. Tensions continued to build against the Rohingya in the 2000s. Violence broke out in 2012 when 4 Muslim men were accused of raping and killing a Buddhist woman in Rakhine. Buddhist nationalists backed by security forces attacked Muslim neighborhoods, burned homes, displacing tens of thousands of Rohingya again. Human Rights Watch deemed it an ethnic cleansing campaign. By this point, the Rohingya were persecuted, disenfranchised, and stateless. In 2016, a Rohingya militant group, the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, emerged and coordinated small-scale attacks on border police stations. An attack on August 25, 2017, left 12 police officers dead and sparked the current crisis against Rohingya civilians. A brutal retaliation by the state security forces has led to about 400 deaths and the mass exodus of about 400,000 Rohingya to Bangladesh. Since the August attack, 210 villages have been burned to the ground. The violent campaign has triggered the fastest-growing humanitarian crisis in recent years. But Myanmar's de facto leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner, Aung San Suu Kyi, has barely acknowledged the attacks.
More than 50% of the villages of Muslims are intact. They are as they were before the attacks took place.
When she says that, 50% of the Muslim villages are still present in Rakhine State, well, what are we talking about? 50% are gone, 50% are burnt out. In any school I went to, 50% is a failing grade.
Recent reports claim that the military has planted landmines along the Bangladesh border to prevent the Rohingya from returning. Myanmar's government has systematically driven the Rohingya out of the country. Over the last 5 decades, it has stripped their citizenship, terrorized them, and destroyed their homes. And now, it wants to keep them from ever coming back.
For the computing, UN's human rights chief just went there on Myanmar. Seems like a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. News report indicate that the top of human rights official for the UN has dropped a damning charge on Myanmar. Ethnic cleansing? Ethnic cleansing is a purposeful policy designed by one of ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian populations of another ethnic or religious from a certain geographic areas. The Rohingya genocide is a series of ongoing persecutions by the Myanmar formerly Burmese, the government, against the Muslim Rohingya people. The genocide has consisted of 2 phases to date. The first occurred from October 2016 to January 2017, and the second has been occurring since August 2017. Rohingya is a term commonly used to refer a community of Muslim, generally concentrated in Rakhine, Arakan state in western Myanmar. The crisis forced over 1 million of Rohingya to flee to other countries. Most fled to Bangladesh, while others escaped to India, Thailand, Malaysia, and other parts of South and Southeast Asia. As a stateless populations, Rohingya families are denied basic rights and protections and extremely vulnerable to exploitations, sexual and gender-based violence, and most abuses. Addressing the Agency of Human Rights Council, Zeid Al Hussein said the Myanmar will not allow investigators to fully assess what's happening to the Muslim Rohingya community, but the situations seems like a textbook examples of ethnic cleansing. He is referring to the bloody crackdown by the government force against militants in the western part of the country. A study estimated in January 18 that the military and local Rakhine Buddhists killed at least 24,000 Rohingya people and penetrated gang rapes and other forms of sexual violence against 18,000 Rohingya Muslim women and girls. 116,000 Rohingyans were beaten and 36,000 were thrown into fires. Aung San Suu Kyi, the incumbent state of councillor, a position equivalent to the Prime Minister of Myanmar, swears that the troops are going after only the terrorist militants and doing their best to spare civilians, but the members of ethnic groups failing. The country tell much a different story of a scourged village of mass killing. While the US joined, those criticizing the military operations, the massive displacement and victimizations of people show that the Burmese security forces are not protecting civilians, said White House Press Chief Sarah Huckabee Sanders. As of September 2017, about 370,000 had crossed the border into Bangladesh. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina visited refugees in makeshift camps and implored Myanmar to allow them to return safely. Hundreds of years they are staying there, she said. How they can deny that they are not their citizen. Li Keqiang, Chinese Premier 2013-2023, Myanmar, however, got an important note of support from China, which said it backed the government's move towards the stability. For our decoding, we have also 4 questions. Why do you think the UN Human Rights Chief consider what happened to the Myanmar was an ethnic cleansing? And we have also, why had the members of Rohingya community cross the borders of Bangladesh? And another one is, what is your stance regarding the issue presented in the article? And the last one is, why do you think China is backing up the Burmese government? This map presents the literal divisions of the world, the northern and the southern hemisphere. Can you identify the difference between the countries in the global north and the global south, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere? Countries that belongs to the northern hemispheres are those rich, industrialized, wealthy nations, democratic capitalist countries, while southern hemisphere developing nations, non-democratic countries. The concept of global relations, major premise, the underdevelopment of a certain states, peoples, and their lack of presentations in the global political process in a reality. Prevalent imbalance of aggregate economics and political power between the state and interstate dimensions. Lisandro Claudio had its own concept in locating the global south. The Starbucks and the Shanti, there are markers of the global interconnectedness, even the global modernity. There are Starbucks branches in the Melbourne, Manila, New York, and New Delhi. All these branches look more or less the same. The sameness represent the cultural homogenizations that many critics have associated with globalizations. In Manila and New Delhi, there's a good chance that upon leaving the coffee shop, you will meet a child beggar in a tattered clothes or walk a block or two with your latte still hot. You will find a shanty town. A space of influence in the developing worlds may mirror the global north. A space of underdeveloped in developed countries may mirror the poverty of the global south. There is something more comforting about poverty in the global south and the north. South divide is as visible as process of globalizations that engendered it. The divide reminds us that globalizations create undersides. Major lenses of international relations from North versus South, realism, liberalism, Marxism, and postmodernism. Realism is the state are always in a state of war economically. The global community is more or less competitive. No one regulates this behavior. It is normal to be competitive. Liberalism is a state tend to cooperate because anarchy exists, or frequently interactions make us interdependent to other countries. Marxism is a class struggle among states. Smaller states provide resources and manpower to the powerful countries. Capitalism, imperialism, colonialism. Postmodernism encompasses a variety of artistic, cultural, and philosophical movement that mark a break from the modernism. Globalism, global economic integrations, is not only inevitable given the rise of the new technologies, it is more importantly a normative international goal. To not partake to globality is a backyard. The civilizations of discourse is the dominant ideology of colonialism and the logic that has shaped the birth of international order. The modernization's theory, the outline, the historical progressions terms of a society's capacity to produce and consume immaterial goods. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Mabuhay.